The morning began with a quiet calm that only Thanksgiving Day could bring. The small town of Cedar Hills rested under a cold sky. Soft clouds drifting slowly like feathers, houses sat close together, smoke rising from chimneys as families prepared for dinner. Inside, one old brown house at the end of Maple Street, lived Raymond Hale, a man known by every neighbor for his warm nature and calm voice. Today he stood in the kitchen, stirring a large steel pot of soup that carried a smell so rich that the air around him felt heavier with every passing minute. Raymond's soup was not ordinary. It was a recipe older than he was. Older than his father. Maybe even older than the town itself. The Hale family soup. Everyone called it. It was the kind of food that reminded people of good days, better days, and home. Simple vegetables, slow-cooked broth, a blend of spices passed through generations, nothing strange, nothing complex, but something held together by heart. His daughter Anna sat nearby at the table, drawing on a sheet of paper while his son Michael played with toy spaceships on the carpet. His wife, Elena, watched them with tired but happy eyes. Their life was simple, but good. Raymond tasted the soup and smiled. "This might be the best one yet," he said softly. Anna lifted her head. "Can I taste?" "Later," he said. "When it's perfect." Outside the window, the sky looked normal at first. But slowly, things changed. A small vibration shook the house. The glass on the table rattled for a moment. Raymond paused, thinking it might be a truck passing on the road. But the shaking grew stronger. Pots shifted, a picture frame tilted. Michael stopped playing and stared at the ceiling with wide eyes. "What was that?" he asked. Before Raymond could answer, another vibration hit, this one, powerful enough to make the lights flicker. Elena hurried to the window and pulled the curtains aside. Her eyes widened in terror. "Raymond," she whispered, "you need to see this." He moved to her side and looked outside. At first, he thought his eyes were fooling him. But then, the truth settled in his chest like a stone. Shadows, massive shadows, stretched across the town. Above the clouds, dark shapes began to appear. Not planes, not birds, something far bigger. Metal structures shaped like wolves, huge, armored, floating like war gods descended from the heavens. Their eyes glowed a cold blue. Their bodies looked like steel beasts with sharp edges and heavy thrusters. Each one was larger than the Hale family's entire house. They moved in formation, hundreds of them, covering the sky like an unstoppable pack. Anna dropped her pencil. "Daddy, are those spaceships?" Raymond did not know how to answer. He had never seen anything like it. Never imagined anything like it. But the ships were real. The air rumbled as they came lower. Every bone in his body felt the weight of their arrival. A sudden alarm from the town's emergency system echoed across the streets. Radios crackled. Cell phones buzzed with static. The internet died at once. Power flickered again, but stayed on weakly. People began shouting outside, running to their homes or cars. Elena covered her mouth. "Oh my God, is this an invasion?" Raymond grabbed the children and brought them close. "We go to the basement," he said firmly. "Now." He led them down the stairs quickly, his heart beating like a drum inside his chest. The walls shook again as more ships descended. The basement was cold and dusty, filled with old boxes and tools, but it had thick walls and a strong metal door. It felt safer than upstairs. Raymond covered the small basement window with a blanket, hoping it would block any light or movement from outside. They could still hear everything. The roar of engines. The strange metallic howl that echoed across the sky. The ground trembling with every landing. "What do they want?" Anna whispered, clinging to her mother. Raymond shook his head. "I don't know. But we stay quiet. We stay together." For a while, they only listened. Machines moved outside. Heavy, slow, powerful. The sound of metal feet hitting concrete echoed across the neighborhood. Low growls carried through the air. Not animal growls, but something mechanical, something alien. The Varkon Wolf Armada did not hide. They wanted the world to know they had arrived. Suddenly, a loud thud sounded above them. Not on the roof, on the ground outside. Something large had landed close to the house. Raymond's breath caught. He motioned for everyone to remain silent. The children tightly held their mother. Another thud, and then another. Something walked past the basement window. A shadow moved across the small bit of light that leaked through the blanket. He could see the shape for just a second. A large paw made of metal, claws sharp and glowing, steps heavy like hammers. Every step made the ground vibrate. Michael whispered, "Are they monsters?" Raymond pulled him close. "Not monsters. Just something we don't understand yet." But inside, he felt fear so deep it numbed his fingers. Minutes passed. Maybe 10, maybe 20, they felt like hours. Suddenly the steps stopped. Everything became still. The alien creature outside sniffed the air. Not once, but again and again. A strong, deep inhale, like a wolf catching a scent. Raymond froze. The scent of the soup. It was still on his clothes. It still filled the air upstairs. And the basement, even though sealed, carried a faint trace of it leaking from the kitchen through vents. The creature sniffed harder. A low growl followed. Then, in a voice that sounded like metal scraping against stone, but still strangely intelligent, it spoke in its own language. Raymond did not understand the words, but he understood the tone: curiosity, confusion, interest. The creature moved closer to the basement window. It crouched. Its shadow darkened the entire space behind the blanket. Raymond felt the air tighten around him. Elena held the children, eyes wide with fear. Raymond whispered, "Don't move. Don't breathe loud." The creature inhaled again. Something about the soup's smell seemed to affect it. Raymond had no idea that the Varkon wolves were guided by an extremely sensitive sense of smell. For them, scent was memory, communication, and instinct. They could detect fear, anger, and even lies through scent alone. But what they smelled now was something they had never encountered: warmth, peace, comfort, and flavor. To them, these were alien sensations. After several long moments, the creature stood and walked away. Slowly, uncertainly, as if confused. Raymond waited 5 more minutes before he dared take a breath. He moved closer to Elena. "I think..." The smell distracted it. She stared at him. "The soup?" It smelled it, and it didn't attack. Elena shook her head, trying to understand. Why would soup do anything to an alien? Raymond had no answer. The ground trembled again. This time it was not just one creature but several. Heavy steps, metallic snarls, strange mechanical chatter. The pack was gathering. Upstairs, something slammed against their front door. Not enough to break it, but enough to test it. Another sniff. Another growl. The wolves were communicating with each other in low, rumbling tones. Raymond's fear deepened. "They're searching. They know the scent is coming from here," Michael whispered. "Are they hungry?" Raymond swallowed. "Maybe." Anna looked at him with tears in her eyes. "Daddy, what if they break the house?" Raymond placed a hand on her shoulder. "No matter what happens, we stay together." The steps upstairs grew louder. Something pushed against the wall. The wooden floor creaked under the weight of something massive. A low howl filled the air, a strange, mechanical howl that sent chills down their spines. Raymond reached for a metal pipe lying near the toolbox. It was small protection against something so powerful, but holding it gave him courage. Elena moved the children behind some boxes. The creatures continued sniffing. And then, suddenly, they stopped. All at once. Not gradual, but immediate. As if a signal had been sent. Total silence filled the house. Raymond felt his heartbeat in his ears. Then a deep, commanding voice echoed from outside, an alien voice, louder and sharper than the others. It spoke in a language they could not understand. But the order was clear from the tone. "Stop searching." Steps moved away from the house. One by one, The creatures left the porch, then the yard, then the street. The heavy metal paws thudded like thunder as they retreated. Within a minute, the neighborhood returned to a fragile quiet. Raymond exhaled shakily. "I think a leader called them," Elena nodded, tears finally falling. "Maybe they lost interest." Raymond listened to the distant hum of the alien armada above. The sky was still full of ships. The world was still under attack. But something strange had happened here. Something that did not make sense. Something that, for now, had saved their lives. Raymond looked at the soup on his sleeve, then at the children, then at the basement walls. He had no idea that this simple family recipe had just changed the path of an entire alien attack. He just knew one thing. Whatever had begun today was far from over. The world above the basement moved like a storm made of steel and shadows. Even after the alien footsteps faded from the Hale family's house, the sky outside continued to hum with the presence of the Varkon Wolf Armada. Their giant ships floated like silent predators, their glowing blue eyes watching every corner of Earth. People all over the globe were terrified. Governments tried to communicate, but the signals never reached the ships. The Varkon wolves were known for taking planets, not talking with them. Meanwhile, inside the Hale family's basement, the atmosphere still trembled with fear and confusion. Raymond sat on the cold floor, holding his head in his hands as he tried to understand what was happening. His wife Elena watched him closely, while Anna and Michael stayed quiet, sitting near the old cardboard boxes, as if trying to make themselves smaller. Raymond finally whispered, "That creature smelled the soup." And it stopped. "I can't explain it," Elena nodded slowly. "It didn't smash the door. It didn't attack us. It only smelled the air." "That's strange." Raymond looked up. Strange doesn't even begin to describe it. Outside their home, small mechanical clicks and low growls drifted across the street. The wolves were still nearby, not inside their house, but not far either. Something was happening out there. Raymond felt it. The aliens' behavior wasn't like what he expected from dangerous invaders. He walked quietly toward the basement stairs and pressed his ear against the door, careful not to make noise. He heard multiple sounds, machines shifting, claws scraping the ground lightly, the faint inhale of sniffing. Elena whispered sharply, "Raymond, don't go up." "I'm not," he said. "I'm listening." What he heard next confused him even more. The sounds weren't angry. They weren't hunting. They sounded uncertain, curious. It made no sense, but the earlier moment replayed in Raymond's mind, the way the wolf-like creature paused outside their window, the way it breathed deeply, as if trying to understand something. He returned to his family. They're still sniffing around the neighborhood. They're searching for something. Maybe the smell. Maybe the soup. Michael blinked. Aliens like soup? Raymond let out a soft, nervous laugh. "I don't think they even know what soup is." Up above them, the aliens continued moving until, suddenly, a deeper voice echoed out, strong, commanding, and clearly different from the others. The earth itself seemed to hold its breath. Raymond whispered, "That must be their leader." The strong voice barked in the alien language, firm and loud. Whatever it said, the other wolves responded in unison with a lower growl that sounded like acknowledgement. The pack moved again, but not away. They moved into a formation as if awaiting further commands. Raymond felt a cold shiver run through him. This wasn't random movement. This was organized. The aliens were preparing for something. A sudden loud thump landed right outside their home, heavier than before. Then another. The basement trembled. Dust fell from the wooden beams above. Anna clutched her mother's arm. "Are they coming back?" Raymond shook his head slowly. "Not them. Just one. A bigger one." He wasn't wrong. Outside, a massive shadow approached the Hale home. It dwarfed the earlier wolf creatures. This one had armor plates thicker than a truck's metal frame and legs that hit the ground like falling boulders. It moved with authority, as if every step declared ownership of the land. This was Commander Feralis, leader of the Varkon ground forces. Inside the basement, the air grew tight. Elena whispered. What does it want? Why here? Raymond exhaled shakily. Maybe it smells the soup too. The thought felt surreal, ridiculous, but nothing else made sense. Feralis stopped in front of the house, lowering his massive metal head and inhaling the air slowly and deeply. The scent of the Hale family soup, still warm in the pot upstairs, drifted gently through the small cracks and vents of the home. To a normal human nose, the scent was soft, but to the Varkan, whose senses were sharper than any animal on Earth, it was loud, powerful, and emotional. Feralis raised his head and let out a low vibration, a sound the Hale family felt through the walls rather than heard. Raymond whispered, "He knows someone is inside." A sudden scratching sound echoed along the outside wall. But it wasn't the sound of claws trying to break in. It was the sound of claws gently pressing, like a curious touch. The alien commander wanted to understand what this strange scent was. Minutes passed in silence. Then, without warning, something strange happened. All the aliens in the area stopped moving. Their metal bodies straightened. Their glowing blue eyes turned in the same direction. A signal had been sent, one not heard, but shared through their technology. They had detected something. More specifically, Commander Feralis had detected something about Raymond. The scent came from a single source. And that source was human. A soft, fragile creature who lived in this small house. Raymond sensed this change. He felt the world shift. The soup was no longer just a smell. Somehow, it had become a message. He turned to his family. "Stay here. Don't move. I'll just look outside for a moment through the small basement window." Elena grabbed his arm. "Are you crazy?" Raymond placed his hand over hers. "I won't open anything. I'll just peek." He crawled to the tiny basement window and lifted the blanket just a little. Only enough to see shadows, shapes, and motion. Outside, he saw the giant wolf commander standing in his front yard. Its armor reflected the gray morning sky. Around it, smaller wolves formed a circle. They weren't attacking the house. They weren't smashing windows. They weren't burning anything. They were waiting. Raymond's heart thumped loudly. What kind of invasion was this? He looked at his family again. Something is wrong with them. They're acting strange. They're not attacking anymore. They're confused. Michael tilted his head. Because of the soup? Raymond nodded slowly. Maybe. He thought deeply about what he had learned. The aliens were wolves shaped like machines. Wolves depended on smell. His soup had a strong scent. The aliens paused when they smelled it. Now they were gathering. Elena whispered, "Ray, if they smell the soup, they might want it." Raymond turned toward the basement stairs. The pot of soup was upstairs on the stove. It was still warm. The entire house was filled with its aroma. He felt an idea growing inside him, one that made him nervous but also strangely hopeful. He looked at Elena. "I think I have to show it to them." Elena stared in disbelief. "Raymond, no. They're dangerous." "I know," he said, "but they're not smashing the house anymore. They're not attacking. They smelled something new, something they've never experienced before. Maybe they're curious. Maybe it stopped them from being aggressive for a moment." Anna whispered, "Daddy, please be careful." Raymond nodded. "I will." He took a deep breath and stood. The small basement felt even smaller now. The air pressed against him. Fear covered his skin like cold water. But he knew in his heart this wasn't a normal situation. Something about the soup had touched the alien's senses in a strange way. Maybe, just maybe, this was the only chance Earth had to stop them from destroying everything. He slowly walked up the basement stairs. Each step felt heavy, but he pushed through his fear. He unlocked the basement door and slipped into the kitchen. The pot of soup still sat on the stove, warm steam rising from its surface. He grabbed a small steel bowl and carefully ladled some soup into it. The scent grew stronger, richer. It filled the kitchen like a warm blanket. When Raymond reached the front door, his hands were shaking. He opened it slowly, very slowly, hoping not to surprise the aliens outside. The moment the door cracked open, the wolves turned their glowing eyes toward him. All of them. Dozens of them. Their metal heads raised slightly, sniffing the air again. Raymond stepped out, holding the bowl with both hands. His breath turned white in the cold air. His heart pounded like a drum. The giant commander, Feralis, stepped forward, towering above Raymond like a mountain made of steel. The ground shook lightly under its weight. Raymond spoke softly, though his voice trembled. I know you can smell this." Feralis lowered his head, his nose inches from the bowl, and inhaled. A low, deep sound escaped him, not a growl, not a roar, but something softer, something like wonder. Raymond stood still. He felt tiny, fragile, powerless. But he also saw something no human had ever seen, an alien commander tasting curiosity. Feralis slowly extended a small mechanical probe from his armor, dipped it into the soup, and brought it to his mouth. He tasted it. The entire pack froze. Every glowing eye blinked at once. Every body stiffened. Something changed in the air. Raymond didn't know it yet. But in that moment, the Varkhan wolves felt something they had never felt in their war-filled lives. Warmth, comfort, memory, peace. And it shook their resolve more than any weapon ever could. The air around Raymond felt thick with tension as Commander Feralis tasted the soup. For a moment, everything in the world froze: the wind, the clouds, even Raymond's breath. The metal wolves around the yard stared with glowing blue eyes, watching their commander closely. They had never seen him hesitate, never seen him slow down, never seen him show anything other than power and control. But the moment the soup touched the alien commander's tongue, something inside him shifted. His glowing eyes flickered. His metal jaw paused halfway through a mechanical clench. A deep vibration echoed inside his chest, not a growl, but a hum. Almost like confusion or something softer. Raymond wasn't sure. The alien reacted as if he had tasted something that didn't just touch his senses, it touched a memory he didn't even know he had. Raymond stood as still as a stone. His hands trembled. His heart beat fast, but he didn't run. Somehow, he felt that moving too quickly might break the moment. Feralis tilted his large metal head and stared directly into Raymond's eyes. The commander's voice came out deep, layered with metallic distortion. He spoke words in his own language, but none of it was harsh. None of it sounded like anger. Raymond could not understand, but he could feel something in the tone. Curious, gentle, surprised. Then the commander did something no one expected. He spoke in broken English. It was rough, heavy, and low, as if the words hurt his throat. "What is this?" Raymond's jaw dropped. The other wolves hissed softly, shocked that their leader used the human tongue, even if just a few words. The father tightened his grip on the bowl. "It's soup," he said quietly. "Just soup." Feralis sniffed again. Warm, soft, strange. His voice paused, and the metal wolves behind him stepped in closer, pushing past one another to catch more of the scent. "It calms the heart." Raymond blinked. He never imagined a giant alien war leader using words like that. "It's a food we make for family gatherings," Raymond explained slowly, his voice shaking. "On special days. It means we care for each other." "CM?" Feralis stared, processing the idea. His glowing eyes dimmed slightly, a sign of deep thinking in Varkhan culture. He looked down at the soup again, and something inside him twisted. The Varkhan wolves had never known comfort. Their world was built on survival, competition, and strength. Food was only fuel. Warmth was weakness. Peace was foolishness. But this tiny bowl held something he couldn't identify. Something new, something dangerous. Dangerous not because it harmed him, but because it made him feel. Raymond took a slow breath. "If you want, I can give more." The wolves behind Feralis growled softly, eager. But the commander lifted one plate-sized paw, stopping them instantly. They obeyed. their bodies going still like statues. Feralis leaned closer to Raymond. "Human," he said, struggling with the word. "Your world smells of fear. Yet you bring this." He pointed one metal claw to the bowl. "Why?" Raymond swallowed hard. "Because I don't want to fight. My family is inside. My kids. My wife. I don't want them hurt. And I guess I hoped you would understand." The alien commander made a strange sound, a low metallic echo that almost resembled a sigh. "Understand," he repeated, testing the word. "Varkan do not understand peace." He moved closer still, lowering himself so he no longer towered over the human as much. "But this dish," he touched the bowl gently with a claw. "It reaches inside." Raymond nodded nervously. "It's just a simple recipe. From my father, and from his father, and from his before him." Feralis studied him. "Passed from warrior to warrior?" Raymond blinked. "Not warriors, just family." The idea confused the alien even more. Varkan passed strength, territory, battle techniques, but not cooking, not warmth, not comfort. These concepts were strange, almost impossible to understand. Before Feralis could respond, one of the younger wolves behind him growled impatiently and stepped forward, sniffing at the bowl like an eager pup. Raymond flinched, stepping back slightly. Immediately, Feralis let out a sharp, deep bark. The young wolf froze, terrified. Raymond realized that even aliens had discipline patterns. Feralis turned back to Raymond. "Human, your scent is calm. You do not fear enough." Raymond gave a soft, shaky smile. "Oh, trust me. I'm terrified." Feralis tilted his head, confused again. "Yet you stand." Raymond looked down at the soup. "I stand because of them." He nodded toward the house. "My family." The commander turned his eyes toward the home. His expression was unreadable, but something softened in his posture. Varkan had no concept of family in the human sense. Their packs were made by training, not by love or blood. Their bonds were built to survive, not to care. The idea of fighting for family was new. One of the older wolves stepped closer. Its voice scraped like metal. "Commander, this human confuses the pack. He offers food. Food is not strength. Food is not war." Feralis looked at his soldier. "Food," he said quietly, "can change the inside." The soldier blinked. "Inside?" Feralis tapped his chest with a heavy metal claw. "Inside here." The soldier stared blankly, confused. Raymond took a deep breath. "Look, I know you came to take over Earth. I know you came for war. But maybe it doesn't have to be that." Feralis's glowing eyes narrowed. "We came because Earth gives off strong energy. Life energy. A rich world. Worth claiming. Worth sharing," Raymond said gently. The commander tensed. "Sharing is not Varkan way." "But maybe it can be," Raymond said softly. Feralis looked down at the bowl again. He tasted another small bit, just one drop. He closed his eyes, letting the warmth of the soup spread through him. His armor clicked softly, reacting to internal changes. The alien let out another breath-like sound. One wolf behind him whispered in their native language. Another growled uncertainly. The pack was restless. They didn't understand what was happening to their leader. Raymond felt the ground shift under his feet. Something important was happening. Something big. Commander Feralis finally opened his eyes. "Human, your food weakens resolve." Raymond took a step back. "I didn't mean to weaken anything. I just..." Feralis shook his head. "Not weaken in battle. Weaken anger." His metal claws tapped against the ground. "No, Varkan has felt this calming before." Raymond stared. "So what does that mean?" Feralis turned away from him suddenly and looked at the sky. The ships above hovered like giant metal wolves waiting for orders. After a long silence, Feralis lifted his massive armored head and released a deep, powerful howl. The sound vibrated through the earth and shot upward into the sky. It wasn't a howl of attack. It wasn't a howl of victory. It was a signal. The pack behind him froze. Then, slowly, they bowed their heads. Raymond didn't know what the howl meant, but it was important. The ground rumbled as more ships shifted position. Lights blinked. Engines hummed. The entire fleet reacted to the commander's call. Feralis looked back at Raymond. "Human father," he said quietly, "you will come with us." Hardy. Human father. Raymond's heart nearly stopped. "With you? Where?" "To speak to the High Council on the ship." Feralis answered simply. "They must taste this. They must feel this." Raymond blinked fast. "You want me to give the soup to your leaders?" "Yes," Feralis said. "Or war will continue." Raymond's breath caught in his throat. He looked back at his house. Through the open door, he saw Elena holding the children, all three of them terrified. "I can't leave them," he whispered. Feralis lowered himself again. "They may come. Your pack must stay together. I understand this now." Raymond realized how strange it was that an alien war leader was trying to respect his family. He nodded slowly. "Okay. We'll come." 4. 4. 4. The wolves parted to create a path. The morning air filled with strange hope and deep uncertainty. Feralis waited patiently while Raymond called his family. Elena came out first, clutching the children tightly. She stared at the giant metal wolves with wide eyes. But Raymond placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "It's okay," he whispered. "They're not here to hurt us right now." Feralis looked at the children for a long moment. "Small. Fragile," he observed. "Almost gently. Yet brave to come out." Savandai. Anna hid behind her father. Michael held Raymond's hand tightly. Raymond lifted the pot of soup from the kitchen. "They want this," Elena whispered. "I never thought food would save us." Raymond gave her a faint smile. "Neither did I." The alien commander turned and began walking toward the landing zone, his heavy steps shaking the ground. The wolves followed him, forming a protective circle around the Hale family. Raymond held the pot as he walked with his wife and children at his side. The alien pack moved with them not as predators, but as escorts. Earth was still under invasion. But something had shifted. One bowl of soup had reached the heart of an alien war leader. And now, the future of the planet rested on whether the rest of the alien fleet would feel the same. The night after the battle felt different for everyone on Earth. People who had spent hours hiding in basements or underground shelters were slowly coming out again, looking up at the sky with worry still in their eyes. The Wolf Armada ships floated above the cities in complete silence. No one fired. No explosions shook the ground. It was strange to see the massive ships just waiting like tired beasts. The humans did not know what the aliens planned next. They only knew that something had changed after the soup incident. Inside the camp, Carson sat by a small fire with his family. His hands were wrapped around a hot cup of tea. But his mind was far from calm. His daughter Emily watched him silently while sipping soup from a metal cup. She kept glancing at the alien delegation tent where the wolves rested. She was still trying to understand how a simple bowl of soup had done what thousands of weapons could not. Carson had been called a hero, but he did not feel like one. He just felt like a father who did what any parent would do to protect his family. Still, he knew that everything was not finished. The wolves might be confused, conflicted, or touched by the soup. But they were still an armada. They still had weapons powerful enough to level continents. If one wrong move happened, everything could still fall apart. General Ruiz walked up to Carson with a serious expression. "They want to talk again," she said quietly. "They asked for you specifically." Carson blinked. "Me? Why me?" "Because you fed their leader," the general replied. "And because he seems to trust you more than anyone else. They said they want to discuss the future of this world." Carson put down his cup with a sigh. He felt the pressure building again. He was not a soldier, not a diplomat. He was a simple man who cooked food for his family, But now he was supposed to speak to aliens who once wanted to wipe out human civilization. It was unbelievable. Emily reached out and squeezed his hand. "You can do it, Dad," she said softly. "You already changed them once." Her faith gave him a little strength. He stood up slowly and followed General Ruiz to the negotiation tent. Inside, the wolf leader stood waiting. His fur looked smoother today, and his eyes were calmer. Instead of armor, he wore a simple cloth across his chest. Carson noticed a small bowl in the leader's hands. The alien held it with almost gentle care. "You came," the wolf leader said. His voice was deep, but it no longer carried the same violent force it had the first day. "Human father, maker of the warm broth." Carson nodded. "You asked for me." The wolf leader walked closer. His steps were slow and respectful. "Last night, many of my warriors tasted your broth. Many cried. Many felt memories. Many felt pain and comfort." His large golden eyes softened. "We did not understand softness as a strength. Now we see it." Carson felt nervous but tried to speak as calmly as he could. "What does that mean for Earth?" The alien exhaled, a slow, rumbling breath. "It means we have lost our reason for war." General Ruiz raised an eyebrow but did not interrupt. She knew this delicate moment required silence. The wolf leader continued. "Our pack believed that only pain shapes strong warriors. We believed that warmth weakens the spirit. But your soup showed us something else. It showed us that comfort can heal the mind. It showed us that compassion can build strength in ways we did not see before." Carson listened quietly. He found it amazing that something so simple could shift the thinking of an entire alien species. "We do not wish to destroy Earth anymore," the wolf leader said. "But we are lost. Our world is dying. Our traditions are crumbling. Our warriors do not know how to live without endless battles." Carson could see the conflict in the alien's eyes. This was not just a warrior. This was a leader burdened with the weight of his entire people. "What do you want from us?" Carson asked. The leader hesitated but then spoke in a low voice. "We want guidance. We want to learn how humans find strength in family, how they share food, how they survive without destroying each other. We want to rebuild our path." General Ruiz looked surprised. This was a request she did not expect. The galaxy had seen many alien races, but none had asked humans for emotional guidance. Carson felt a strange mix of responsibility and fear. Teaching aliens how to be peaceful? Teaching them how to build families and communities? That was not a small task. "I don't know if I can do all that," he admitted. "I'm just one man." "You are a father," the wolf leader replied. "A father is never a small thing." Outside the tent, hundreds of wolf soldiers gathered. They watched the tent with curiosity. Some held empty bowls. Some held spoons they had crafted from pieces of their armor. Many were waiting to understand what their new path would be. Carson stepped outside with the leader. The crowd grew quiet. He felt thousands of eyes on him. His heart hammered in his chest. The wolf leader raised his voice so all could hear. This human father brought to us a truth we had forgotten. He reminded us of warmth. He reminded us that strength does not only come from claws and teeth but from unity. The aliens whispered among themselves, their deep voices rumbling through the air. Carson took a breath. "If you truly want peace," he said, speaking loud enough for them to hear, "then we can help you. But it's not about soup. It's about choosing to care for each other. It's about protecting your families, not destroying someone else's." The wolves listened without interruption. Their ears stood tall. They were absorbing every word. One younger wolf stepped forward. His fur was darker than the others. "Human father," he asked, "how do you heal anger? How do you stop the heart from wanting war?" Carson thought for a moment. "By giving it something worth protecting," he said. "A home. A family. A future." The wolves murmured in agreement. These ideas were new to them, but they could feel the truth behind them. Then another wolf stepped forward. A warrior with scars across his snout. "Can we learn these things? Can we build homes? Can we make warmth? Homes, Carson nodded. Yes, anyone can learn, even warriors. General Ruiz stepped beside him. Earth is willing to talk about cooperation, she announced. But everything must be peaceful. No weapons. No threats. The wolf leader lifted his head. We agree. There was a sudden cheer from both humans and wolves nearby. The mood in the air shifted from fear to hope. A signal from the wolf ships lit up the sky, an enormous blue beacon flashing across the clouds. It was a signal of surrender. It was also a signal of new beginnings. Hours later, humans and wolves worked together to set up a large open area for communication and cultural exchange. The wolves created large fire pits that glowed with deep orange flames. Humans brought food, blankets, musical instruments, and even toys for the younger wolves who had never seen anything like them. Emily wandered among the wolves carrying a pot of soup. The wolves followed her eagerly, bowls in hand. Some sniffed the soup with curiosity. Others tasted it carefully, and their eyes softened instantly just like their leaders had. One wolf warrior lifted his bowl. Warmth, he said slowly, trying to find the right human word. Warmth is strong. Howard, 70. Emily smiled. Yes, it makes people feel safe. The warrior nodded deeply. As the night grew darker, humans and wolves sat together around the fire. Stories were shared. Some wolves explained how their home planet had once been peaceful before war consumed every part of their culture. Some humans told them about past conflicts Earth had survived. Carson sat beside the wolf leader. They both watched their people interacting. It felt like a moment from a dream, two species that had nearly destroyed each other now sharing food and learning about one another. You changed us, the wolf leader said quietly. Carson shook his head. No. You chose to change. I only gave you something to start with. The leader watched Emily serving soup. His golden eyes softened. Your daughter is strong, he said. She's the best part of me, Carson replied proudly. The wolf leader looked reflective. We have never raised children with gentleness. Maybe that is where we lost our way. Carson looked at him. It's never too late to learn. The leader lifted his bowl and drank the last of the soup. Then we will learn, he said. And we will teach our children a new path. Guided not by fear, but by warmth. Above them, the stars shimmered softly as if watching this new beginning. Earth had survived an invasion not through fire or force but through compassion and the simple power of a father's soup. The wolves had arrived as conquerors, but they were leaving as students, and maybe someday, as friends. For the first time since the Armada appeared, Carson felt hope settle warmly in his chest. The world was changing, and for once, it was changing for the better.